If you're thinking about moving to Frederick, Maryland, but not totally sure whether you're going to actually love living here, then this video is for you. Frederick, Maryland constantly comes up as one of the best places to live. And for many reasons, that reputation is well deserved. But when you spend a little time speaking with locals or people who moved here and experienced a few things they weren't expecting, you start to hear a few common concerns come up again and again. Now, for some people, these are minor. But for others, these can actually make a big difference once you're actually living here. Thanks for joining me. I'm Matthew Fields, and I'm here to help you decide where the right place is to call home. Today, I want to walk you through the 5 main reasons why Frederick might not be the right move for you. And by the end, you might have some second thoughts, or you might realize that none of these are deal breakers whatsoever. Let's start with something that doesn't really show up in the photos when you're researching Frederick, and that is the commute. If you're driving around during the middle of the day, Frederick actually seems like it's pretty easy to get around. But during peak hours, the roads can look a lot different, especially on places like Route 15 and I-270, where traffic can start stacking up pretty quickly. This mainly affects people who are commuting to Montgomery County or DC, where the daily drive can take a bit longer than expected. But if you work locally or remotely, this might not matter much at all. However, if you're trying to get across town during these times, you might feel some of that congestion. Another piece of this is how people get around in general. Frederick is fairly car dependent, so for most people living in the area, having a car is pretty essential. For many people, that's completely normal, but if you're coming from an area with extensive transportation, it can feel like a bit of an adjustment. And the reason the traffic has become more noticeable over the years has a lot to do with how much Frederick has grown. Over the last several years, Frederick has seen a lot of new housing, commercial development, and many more people moving into the region. With that growth, there's a sentiment shared amongst the locals who have noticed that Frederick feels like it's expanding faster than the schools, the roads, and infrastructure can keep up with. Some of that plays out in discussions about school capacity and redistricting across the county, as new schools are built and boundaries are adjusted to address overcrowding. At the same time, there are several major projects shaping the future of Frederick, Maryland. The county has been working through zoning plans for data centers to be built on about 2,600 acres near Adamstown, which has sparked some local discussion about land use and long-term planning. Downtown is also seeing continued investment with projects like the Marriott Hotel and Conference Center and several housing development projects in the area. Some people see this as a sign that Frederick is thriving and continuing to grow. Others worry that the pace of development could change the character that originally drew people here. Depending on where you're coming from, this level of growth may not be of concern. But if you're expecting everything to stay the same, it's something worth being aware of. And naturally, when more people start discovering an area, it tends to impact something else pretty quickly. And that is housing prices. Frederick has seen a noticeable shift in home values and rents over the past several years. And for many longtime residents, the growth in development and the rising housing costs have been the bigger changes they have felt over time. But this concern often shows up a little differently depending on who you're talking to. For people relocating from other parts of Maryland or the DC region, Frederick can still feel relatively reasonable compared to where they're coming from. For those moving from out of state, one thing to note is the variety of taxes that you can encounter in Maryland, which can change the overall cost picture. And I actually did a full breakdown of the real cost of living in Frederick in another video if you want to dive deeper into the numbers. Now, another topic that comes up pretty often when people talk about living in Frederick has less to do with logistics and more to do with lifestyle. Frederick actually has quite a bit going for it when it comes to things to do, with a lot of praise for its restaurants, breweries, downtown activities, and outdoor recreation all throughout the county. But you will hear some people say that Frederick feels a little limited compared to bigger city entertainment, especially if you're used to places with major venues, professional sports teams, and a bigger late night scene. Another factor that comes up in conversation about living in Frederick has to do with the local economy and job base. Again, this really comes down to personal preference. For a lot of people, that quieter, community-focused lifestyle is exactly what they're looking for. Frederick has a pretty strong local economy in many ways, with major employers like Fort Detrick, Frederick Health, and a growing presence of biotech and research organizations. But one thing people mention from time to time is a feeling that housing costs have risen faster than the local salaries available. Because of that, Frederick has served somewhat as a bedroom community, where residents commute towards Baltimore, DC, and Northern Virginia, or work for companies based elsewhere remotely. Now, that doesn't mean there aren't great opportunities here. Just for some people, the financial equation works best when they're earning income from outside of Frederick's immediate job market. So when you put all of this together, commuting, pace of growth, cost of living, lifestyle differences, and how the local job market compares, it really comes down to whether Frederick fits the type of life you're trying to build. For some people, these are deal breakers. For others, they're simply trade-offs that come with living in an area that still offers a lot of what people love about Frederick. The space, the community feel, the downtown charm, access to parks and outdoor recreation, and being close enough to big cities without living right in the middle of them. And that's really the key with Frederick. It's not perfect, but for the right person, it's really a great place to live. So if you're considering a move here, it's important to understand how these factors align with your own priorities. Because once you understand what daily life actually looks like here, it becomes much easier to determine if Frederick is the right move for you. And I'm curious, let me know in the comments, which one of these would actually cause you to think twice about moving to Frederick? And if you have any questions about moving to Maryland, or what living in Frederick is actually like, don't hesitate to reach out. I'd be happy to connect and help in any way I can. Until then, I'll see you in the next one.